Alright, I know what you're thinking. What deranged evil spirit possessed me to make this video? How can I expect to get away with making a video like this when some people lost their minds over a reference to the bystander effect in my cheater video? Am I aware how doing something like this makes me look? And those are all valid questions, they really are. But I have a better question. What class would Hitler have made?
I am Adolf Hitler, command of the Third Reich. Little known fact, also 2 points a mic.
If you were to actually entertain such a ridiculous question and not immediately click off to find a better use for your time, one of the 9 classes probably popped in your head right away. Maybe the characters that the most evil people tend to play, such as Pyro or Sniper. Perhaps the characters played by people with the largest egos, such as Spy or Sniper. Or the characters played by people who talk the most shit, such as Scout or Sniper. But I'm here today to try my best to figure out, based on actual historical facts only, what would happen if the Mustache Man were alive today, you sat him down in front of a computer with TF2 pulled up, and forced him to play every class? Which one would be his favorite? Let's run through this hypothetical. Assuming that Hitler is given a brief overview of the characters themselves as well as their arsenals, I think that he would instantly gravitate towards the medic for obvious reasons. Hitler was a German nationalist, meaning he took great pride in being German and viewed those who weren't as lesser than him and his people. Even though he was born in Austria, he'd look at the medic as a fellow German and everyone else as inferior to himself and the medic. Now, considering Hitler would have never played a video game before, as they didn't exist before the end of his life, he would not be very good at TF2, let alone the medic. But he would have one thing going for him, and that's his actual military experience. Not as a dictator, but as an infantryman. Now, I don't want this to turn into a long, boring history lesson, but it turns out that Hitler was probably pretty good at not getting killed. During the first battle of Ypres, 40,000 men, part of the 9 newly enlisted divisions, were killed or injured, which was nearly half of them. Specifically, Hitler's regiment entered the battle with 3,600 soldiers and left with only 611, and within 2 months, Hitler's own company of 250 people had only 42 still standing. One of which was Hitler. Assuming he's capable of applying this skill of staying alive on the battlefield to a video game, this would really benefit him as a medic player. While a lot of other classes are encouraged to make risky plays and throw themselves in harm's way to get value and have an impact on the game, medic is best played by preserving your own life over everyone else's. In this regard, if we skip past the part where he struggles to get a hang of the controls of a first-person shooter, Hitler would probably enjoy himself as medic and actually provide some use to his team. Medic isn't very mechanically difficult, more so strategically, and Hitler has some experience as a strategist. You might be a little confused as to why his character is speaking in mostly English and would have no clue what he's saying most of the time unless he plays with the German dub of the game, but every once in a while he'd hear medic say a German word and probably pog at the screen or something. He may also take some sort of sick pleasure in shooting non-Germans with needles and go battle medic for a round or two until he gets bored of it. But eventually he would succumb to the medic experience of becoming incredibly frustrated with your useless teammates, probably yell some racist shit in voice chat, and finally decide to try out a different class. Of the 8 classes remaining, 7 of them are confirmed to be from countries that opposed Germany during the Second World War. And the only one who isn't is the Pyro. Hitler would probably be very reluctant to play as any character that isn't German, and since Pyro's identity, race, and nationality are unknown, Hitler would likely just assume that the Pyro is German, or at least make up his own little headcanon that he is. He might also see Pyro's gas mask and think that he's the most well-equipped class on the team. While the mask serves no actual gameplay function in TF2, gas masks were very useful and often necessary for troops to have during both World Wars, and were commonly used by German soldiers. There was also an instance during World War I in which Hitler was temporarily blinded and lost his voice from a mustard gas attack. So again, he might see Pyro's gas mask and think, oh yeah, I'm gonna need that, despite its lack of actual gameplay function. He may also be drawn to the Pyro due to his method of killing. I don't really want to make jokes about it, like the Holocaust was fucking terrible, but people were burned alive. Based on all that, I think the Pyro would easily be Hitler's second choice. And Pyro's very easy for beginners. He'd probably manage to get some WM1 kills, struggle to understand how air blast works, and ultimately become frustrated with the fact that he's limited to close range. Keep in mind that World War I combat was mostly trench warfare. You have 2 opposing sides sitting in trenches that they dug in the ground miles apart, taking potshots at each other with rifles, which is why I think it's likely that Hitler might prefer the gameplay of Sniper over Pyro. Plus, Australia's beef was more with Japan than it was Germany in World War II. Now, I can't really seem to find any information on whether or not Hitler was, like, cracked when it comes to shooting guns and accuracy or anything like that, but if we assume that he could at least hit his shots in real life, and we assume that partially translates to clicking on heads in a video game, he he would be a decent sniper. That skill of preserving his own life would come into play yet again, since sniper isn't one of those characters where you're forced to put yourself in danger to get value. In fact, you're encouraged not to. He might have some relaxing game where he just chills in the back while his team pushes forward, taking great pleasure in blowing the heads off of all the inferior non-German folk. Maybe shedding a tear when he drops a medic. But eventually, he'd shit his diaper the moment he runs into a sniper that's better than him, or bitch at his team for failing to protect him from a flanking scout or spy. Speaking of spy, I think he would be the next class that Hitler tries. Out of the remaining races of the other mercenaries, it seemed like Hitler hated French people the least. This video is so fucking strange, I cannot believe I'm saying all this. The French are fairly similar to Germans and happen to be neighbors, so let's say he picks spy next. I'm pretty confident in saying that out of every class, the spy is the most difficult for a new player to fully grasp. Even if you're good at the game and fully understand how spy works, you're gonna struggle to play him effectively if you don't have that experience. But even putting all that aside, spy's mechanics would be full of stuff that someone from the 1940s would be pretty unfamiliar with. Invisibility, sappers, basically shape-shifting. The spy of TF2 is nothing like what a traditional real-life spy is like, and would probably completely subvert Hitler's expectations in what I would expect to be a bad way. He might think it's cool, but he would probably also be disappointed that stuff like that still doesn't actually exist in the real world yet. In terms of the class's playstyle, I could see him being interested with the idea of it, but quickly becoming frustrated and wanting to move on to something else. Continuing with the theme of Hitler picking his next class based on race, I believe that the 3 Americans would be up next, starting with the engineer. I feel like Hitler might not be too excited to play the engineer. As someone who's never really played or heard of a video game before, he might think that it's like actual engineering, which I don't really think he has much interest in. After all, he's a painter, not a mechanic. However, obviously, playing engineer is nothing like being an engineer in real life. If anything, it's more similar to being like, I don't know, a military commander or something. Something that Hitler was, but he was not really that very good at least from what I've read. Of course, playing engineer in Team Fortress 2 is way easier than leading a military. But here's what I'll say about engineer. The quality and enjoyment of your first engineer TF2 experience rides pretty heavily on the map you play on. Like if you're attacking on Frontier and you've never played engineer before, you're gonna have a pretty hard time getting anything done. But defending on Barnblitz would be a different story. So for the sake of this video, let's assume that the Führer's first time playing engineer would take place on good old 2 Fort. That's right, he's gonna get the classic sit around and do nothing for a few hours, capture the flag experience. If you're for whatever reason unfamiliar, like I was under the impression that this was a universal memory for anyone who's ever touched this game, but I could be wrong, this is what I'm talking about. You load into a 2 Fort server, you pick engineer, you build up a level 3 sentry gun in your base's courtyard or the intel room and a surrounding nest, and then you just sit around and wait for something to happen, occasionally killing a scout that's desperate to cap the intel and end the game with your sentry. I speculate that for a while, this could very well be one of Hitler's favorites, just sitting around and doing basically nothing, understanding the basics of engineer in a relaxed environment, racking up sentry kills on clueless free-to-plays and friendlies, but eventually he would have to come face to face, or rather face to mask, with a spy. Now, I'll be honest, I don't really get that angry at video games, not nearly as much as I used to, but if there's one thing that does infuriate me to no end, it's playing engineer on a team that completely fails to support me. Engineers are very valuable to the team and should be treated as such. Protect them while they build up their nest. Make sure they don't need the ammo pack you're about to pick up. Just be considerate of them. I stole metal from the engineer. I made up Hitler. Unfortunately for Hitler, the vast majority of players are not considerate of their engineers, so as soon as he steps out of 2 Fort and into the real world, I kinda sound like a broken record saying this, but he would quickly become frustrated yet again and swap to Scout. Here's the thing about Scout, okay? And this is my opinion. Scout is kinda hard. It's difficult to get good at utilizing your movement advantage, and it's difficult to get good at hitting meat shots consistently. I'm not great at Scout, and I've been playing this game for years. However, the other thing about Scout is that I think out of all the classes, he is the most fun to play when you're not performing well. Even if you completely suck, it is just fun to run and jump around as Scout. It's fun, and everyone likes having fun, even the monster behind the Holocaust. There you go, Hitler would probably have fun playing Scout, getting the hang of slightly more advanced movement, missing most of his shots, but occasionally getting a kill to send dopamine coursing through his veins while being considerably less likely to get angry and freak the fuck out. Next, he would pick Soldier. probably very reluctantly with the knowledge of Soldiers' character, a true American patriot, an American nationalist even. Thankfully for Hitler, this wouldn't have much impact on gameplay since he doesn't speak English and wouldn't understand Soldiers' voice lines, some of which would undoubtedly make him very upset.
You just got dominated, Fritz! I'm gonna mail my boot to the Kaiser with your ass around it! America wins again! One time I killed a man in Germany. After the war.
After playing Soldier for a few minutes, he might even completely forget about his patriotic personality and get lost in the pleasurable experience that is shooting feet. Similarly to Pyro, Soldier is pretty easy for beginners. Of course, to play him effectively, it takes some more experience, but it's no secret that a new player can pick up Soldier and do well. You just shoot the ground and you'll at least do something. Pair this easy method of attack with Hitler's strategic experience and ability to preserve his own life. He might be sad to admit that he enjoys playing one of Uncle Sam's finest quite a bit. However, when he starts to see soldiers with more skill and experience than him doing stuff like rocket jumping, air shots, or even market gardening, he'll be met with a frustrating experience when he tries to replicate it himself, and you should know by this point how Adolf deals with frustrating experiences. Finally, we're left with two people that Hitler would view with a venomous hatred. A Russian and a black guy. I know that Hitler really fucking hates Russians like a lot, so I thought I'd ask Google if he would despise a Russian more or a black Scotsman more, and surprisingly, but also unsurprisingly, the answer is probably Russians. So Demoman gets to go before Heavy. And to be honest, I don't really know what to say about Demoman in the context of this video. Like, Demoman isn't really that hard, I guess, as long as you know what you're doing, but Hitler wouldn't know what he's doing. Unless whoever is the Hitler Wrangler in this scenario, you know, the Hitler Wrangler, the guy that tells him about the classes and stuff so he can pick which ones he wants to play first, unless that guy instructs Hitler on how to sticky spam, I don't really think he would vibe with Demoman. I don't really see him getting frustrated, just being like, yeah, I don't know, I don't like this, and then moving on. And lastly, we end off with the Heavy. So when it comes to Heavy, as soon as you figure out that Mouse 2 revs your gun without firing, and you understand how to use this to your advantage, Heavy becomes like the easiest class in the game. Not the best class in the game, let me make that very clear, but the easiest, with the exception of when there's a competent spy and or sniper on the opposing team. And I really think that's what it comes down to. When there's no sniper or spy to fuck up his heavy gaming, Hitler would be like, shit, I'm actually kind of enjoying this Russian dude. But when there is a sniper or spy, he'd be like... So now that Hitler has played all 9 classes at least once, which one is he going to take a liking to and decide to main? Well, personally, I believe that he would believe that he was right with his first pick, the Medic. He just ticks too many boxes for what I speculate Hitler wants in a TF2 main. German? Check. Not mechanically challenging? Check. Strategically challenging? Check. Risk-averse? Check. There's one more sort of subtle aspect about Medic that I think someone like Hitler might appreciate, and it actually has to do with voice chat, kind of. It's not uncommon for Medic to be portrayed as a sort of leader or commander in SFM media and stuff, like Live and Let Spy, The Sound of Medicine, End of the Line, kinda, Expiration Date, kinda, Meet the Medic, kinda. If he's not a commanding figure, he's at least this anchor to rally the team together. And that dynamic is somewhat true in-game as well. Your teammates have some level of trust in you based simply on the fact that they rely on you for healing. You don't have to be playing Medic and healing them, but you're choosing to, and most people have respect for that in and of itself. And you can kind of use that respect to command your teammates on what to do, when to push, where to push, when to fall back, what to do with your Uber. Obviously, they're not always going to listen to you, nor do they have to, but even something as simple as verbally encouraging or hyping up your Uber patient, telling them to get in there and fuck shit up can be genuinely helpful. So Hitler was very notorious for giving very empowering speeches, I suppose. I should probably say this at this point in the video. I don't really think that I have to, but just in case someone gets the wrong idea, I obviously do not condone anything that Hitler did. I don't think Hitler was a good guy. I don't think Hitler was a cool guy, or any other positive adjective. Fuck Hitler, okay? Yes, I know, I'm very brave to say something like that. But yeah, these speeches he gave were obviously horrible, but they were persuasive and uplifting enough to rally together the German people to support him and do what he said, and what he thought was best for his country, which just so happened to be terrible racist atrocities. One might say that this was a skill or talent for Adolf Hitler, and perhaps, maybe he could apply this talent to TF2 and give his infamous speeches over voice chat, bringing the team together to win the game as he heals them. Once Hitler gets a taste of such a rewarding experience, finally getting to know what winning a war feels like, and being the one responsible for bringing that victory to your team, he would love it. He could very well become addicted to it and want to play Medic in Team Fortress 2 every day, so there you have it. Which TF2 class would Adolf Hitler have mained? The answer is probably Medic, and I think second place would go to Scout, while third place would go to Sniper. But hey, if you know something I don't, and you think I went wrong somewhere in my schizophrenic speculations, tell me what you think the answer is and why. Before I really close this out, I think I want to make this a series. It could be fun, just trying to figure out what class a random famous person might main based on what's known about them. It doesn't have to be another dictator, or even a historical figure. It could be a person in pop culture, or a fictional character. It could be MLK, it could be Walter White, it could be Trump, it could be Donkey Kong. Go ahead and leave a comment telling me who you want a video like this about, and I just might do it. And I promise you, no matter who it is, I can definitely get away with it because I've already done Hitler, and only go up from here. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope that you'll see me again.
Screw you, you big black.
You know, Hitler, like me and you and I would make a great team.
Okay.
You know,
What do you think?
I think so too.
Partners?
Partners.
Kelly, stop swearing. You're keeping.
Awesome.